morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Anita Bass podcast. My name is Anita Bass, your host, and tonight's episode is proudly brought to you by Awake Tours. I say tonight because it's currently 11 p.m. Today we are speaking to Chris. Chris is in Peru. Peru is the hardest time zone I've ever had to try and coordinate when talking to people. So the earliest he could do in the morning was the latest here I could do at the night, which is 11 p.m. So for everybody who's watching this on YouTube, I'm sorry, I look like a foot, but this is the way we look at 11 p.m. We have Chris, who is currently residing in Peru, who has gone out there and has created earth medicine experiences. So we're going to speak about psychedelics and ayahuasca, what this is to y'all who have no idea what that word even means, the benefits of the plants, how he got to Peru, started these retreats, and where he ended up where he is now. We're then going to go into a bit about the safety requirements and what's necessary if you are to choose to do something like this, and why you need to be careful when you're picking somewhere to do such an intense life experience, and the changes and breakthroughs he has seen in himself and people around him. Yep. All right. I myself have not done ayahuasca before. It is something that I will do. It is something that I need to lead up to. I feel like if I did it now, I would get a wallop from the spirits or Mother Ayahuasca, as they call it. And I just know it's not my time yet. And if I try to do it before I'm ready, it'll let me know that I wasn't ready. All right, let's get Chris on the phone and call up Peru. Alrighty, guys, so as promised, I have Chris on the phone in Peru. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. What is it, 20 past 11 here? That would be 20 past 10 in the morning over there in Peru.
See?
Yeah. So I've told the people a little bit about you. I haven't gone into too much details, so I'll leave that up to you. But basically, I just explained how today we're here to get a little bit into ayahuasca, the ceremony, what you do down there in Peru, the benefits of it, and just the notable changes and breakthroughs that you've noticed in yourself and people who go to ceremony. I think this will be a dope podcast. Some people are super keen and super interested in partaking in the experience, and then other people have absolutely no idea what it is. So, I don't know, let's roll. Let's roll. All right, so my first question to you is just for people who have never heard of the word, what is ayahuasca?
Okay, so ayahuasca is, the word itself can mean two different things, actually, because there's what's referred to as ayahuasca the vine, and then there's ayahuasca the brew. So I can just break down what the differences are. Ayahuasca the brew is the psychoactive brew that people drink to have a psychedelic trip. So it's a hallucinogenic. It's referred to as a medicine. A lot of the indigenous people down here refer to it as Mother Ayahuasca, so it represents Mother Nature. It takes a feminine form. How ayahuasca the brew is made is actually not just the ayahuasca vine, but it's a mixture of ayahuasca vine and chacruna leaf. Now, what they do is they take the indigenous people down in the Amazon, and now obviously many gringos are cooking it as well because it's become such a phenomenon. And such a powerful healing medicine, I've seen. But basically, you collect in the jungle the ayahuasca vine, and the process is you smash the ayahuasca vine and you put it in a pot and you layer it with the chacruna leaf. And you do several layers of this, and you add water, and you do a boiling process, and it creates a thick sludge, which is the ayahuasca brew. So, like I said, the ayahuasca vine itself has a lot of medicinal benefits. You'll see a lot of people using it to microdose tinctures of ayahuasca vine. But what the ayahuasca vine contains is what's referred to as an MAO inhibitor. And basically what happens is if you were just to eat chacruna leaves are loaded full of DMT. However, if you just take it on its own, your body doesn't assimilate it. It actually passes through your digestion system and nothing happens. But when it goes through the process of being boiled with the ayahuasca vine, the MAO inhibitor mixes with the chacruna leaf and it creates this brew where now your body can take in the DMT that's found in the chacruna. So there's lots of different brews that people use, and I've spent some time down in the jungle outside of Pucallpa with a few different shamans, and everybody sort of has a different way that they cook it. But essentially, some people will add different things, different medicines. Our shaman who we work with, he just basically does a very strict chacruna leaf and ayahuasca blend. And what he does is he makes sure that he adds lots of extra chacruna so there's more visions and there's more of that psychoactive effect. So pretty powerful stuff. And like you said, not many people know about it, so there's a lot of questions around it. But the actual ayahuasca brew itself is the psychoactive ingredient. It's pretty profound.
That is absolutely amazing. I feel like I just went on like a science lesson as well.
I'm definitely no scientist. A lot of this, it's been research and firsthand. I'm no scientist or a doctor, but these are things that I've learned over the last 3 years being down here in Peru. But it's that's the science of it. But there's only so much that words can do until you drink it.
Yeah.
You won't fully understand it.
Then you understand. No, that is amazing and so important that you have someone to guide you who knows it properly, and a shaman, like as you say, down there in Peru. So now I'm just going to get you to possibly give us a brief walkthrough of the ceremony. So if I'm rocking up to Earth Medicine Experiences down there with you, what shall I expect?
Okay, so as the way I'll just give you the rundown of when people arrive. I mean, before people arrive is when the process actually begins. So with Earth Medicine Experience, what I've sort of created is a very small group. We never have more than 10 people sit in a circle, or 10 people on a retreat. So basically what happens is no less than 2 weeks out, I make contact with everybody who's coming to visit. Basically, I touch base and I chat with people sometimes a couple hours just to get to know who they are if I haven't worked with them before, what their history is, and then sort of delve into, are they approaching this because of trauma? Are they approaching this because they want to raise their consciousness or expand consciousness and have a new experience? We have mixtures of people that come down here. So I basically 2 weeks out, I want to speak with people, get to know them, their history, and then most importantly, what their intention is for the trip. So generally speaking, what people can expect is I'm going to put them on, sort of a schedule of things they need to do. I'm a firm believer, like I love yoga and I love meditation, but I try to get people, even if they don't like yoga and meditation, to do some sort of physical fitness, some type of movement, whether it be, martial arts or dance or anything. Just get something where you're getting regular exercise, and then also begin journaling minimum 2 weeks out. So journaling and just sort of really putting in the front of your head what your intention is for the experience. So I give people that, and then I put them on a special diet. So just try to cut sugar out, cut sugar down to a minimum, which is pretty hard these days because it's hidden in everything. But, I'm not super militant. I want people to enjoy the experience, but at the same time, we're human and it's not going to be perfect. I've had people have a couple glasses of wine on the flight in, and it's not going to kill you. It's frowned upon, but those are the types of things. So I try to prep people for the first 2 weeks. And then they land in Cuzco. So right now, we have our retreats in what's referred to as the Sacred Valley of Cuzco, Peru. So people land at the airport. I have a driver pick people up that brings them out to the retreat center. And then the first day is everybody sort of mingling, getting to know one another, meeting the medicine workers. See, I oversee the whole retreat, and I sort of, I offer emotional support as people are going through it, but I also work with a team of 2, which is Kunti, who is a Mexican medicine woman who works with the toad medicine, Bufo alvarius, and she works closely with Pepe, who is our Shipibo Shaman, who is featured in the documentary on Netflix, The Last Shaman. So if people want to get a little feel of what, he's like, that they can check that out. But he's a very serious shaman. So after the first day, what we do is we don't actually go right into the ayahuasca. We work with several different medicines. So after the arrival day, we meet everybody, we have a nice dinner, and sort of with our food, to give people an idea of what we do is, I have a background in where I initially met you, Anita, in Thailand. I had worked at a retreat center that focused mainly on fasting, juice fasts, healthy organic foods, training, yoga. So I've incorporated all that into this program as well. So we have in the Sacred Valley, we're surrounded by organic farms. I mean, the place is so fertile. It's green everywhere. They're, amazing spinach, broccoli, potatoes, all the food's super fresh. So we really try to incorporate that and juices and keep people healthy during the retreat. On the first official day of the retreat, we begin with a Kambo cleanse. Now, Kambo is a frog medicine. Kambo doesn't have any psychoactive effects, so it's not a psychedelic per se, but it's a cleansing tool. So a lot of people that work with Kambo, Kambo is the one, and you may have seen it before, is where the applier will burn small little holes in your arm and then place secretion from a frog into those holes. And basically it enters the bloodstream and it creates a really deep purge. So a lot of vomiting. Some people notice a huge emotional shift as well. So it's not just physical. A lot of people notice that if they're holding on to something like anger or resentment for people, or people have wronged you, bad relationships, people find that the Kambo, like through that, really aggressive purging, you release a lot of energetic and emotional issues or blockages. Yeah. So that's why we begin with that medicine, because we find if in the jungle, it's traditional that you work with what's referred to as either a vomitivo or this Kambo medicine to help purge, because it's a cleansing. And then when you get into your ayahuasca, it may not be as tough. Yeah. So that's the first morning of the first day. And then later on that day, we start to serve people Bufo alvarius. And Bufo alvarius is what's known as the desert toad. It's really started to create waves. We have a new advocate, Mike Tyson. I don't know if you caught the podcast with Mike Tyson on Joe Rogan, but all he talks about now is the toad. He's running Tyson Ranch. He's growing a lot of pot and smoking a lot of toad. And you can see how Mike has changed. I mean, Mike has gone from an extremely aggressive, really, guarded person to now he's opening his heart. He's trying to help people. And you see him doing all kinds of great things. So that's sort of the toad medicine for me is the reason that we start with it is because it's a 5-MeO DMT. So it's a little bit different than DMT that's found in ayahuasca or also other synthetic DMTs. The 5-MeO DMT is referred to as the God molecule. So we give people that because what I've found is sometimes people have a really hard time connecting with ayahuasca on their first time. It's a really strange thing. I'll never forget, my first time in Peru when I came, I did everything right. My diet was perfect. I prepared. I was yoga, meditation, journaling, setting intentions. And the first 2 ayahuasca ceremonies, I sat in the dark and got nothing. And I was like extremely disappointed because I'm a guy that's been working with psychedelics my whole life. Like I'm used to like magic mushroom hero doses and being blasted off. So, I'm expecting ayahuasca to just kick my ass. And it's funny because there's a saying that everybody says about ayahuasca. They say that Mother Ayahuasca gives you what you need, not what you want. So I'm guessing I needed a time out to sit in the dark with nothing because, I didn't get any experience. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm like, the medicine isn't working. And then I look at the person next to me and they're just like, completely mangled. And I'm like, okay, it's me. There's something wrong with me. And that's what I needed, right? I needed that sort of kick in the ass that you can't always get what you want, So it was very, very interesting experience. So what I found is through the experience of our retreats is if we serve the toad medicine at the start of the week, it's such a powerful medicine. A lot of places that serve it, they serve it on one of the last days. And for me, there's so much to take in. It's literally like having an out-of-body experience. Like when I was 19 years old, I was involved in a head-on car crash and I was pronounced dead at the scene. I mean, I was mangled. My pelvis was broken open book fracture. I broke both femurs. One was a butterfly fracture and a clean break of the other femur. My ankle was compound dislocated. My left foot was crushed. My heart, I tore 2 layers of my aorta. Oh my God. I collapsed a lung. I was literally dead on the scene. So I had an out-of-body experience that day. I was 19 years old, pronounced dead at the scene, and literally I felt my spirit leave my body floating above the crash scene. I mean, if you follow people that they call them NDEs, near-death experiences, almost everybody that has a near-death experience, they talk about white light. They feel like connection and love. And the same thing happened to me that day. I'm floating above the car crash scene, and I feel like I'm one with the wind, and I'm floating on the treetops, and I'm trying to touch the treetops, but my hand isn't there. And then it's just all of a sudden I start seeing this white light and everything's glowing. And I just feel this overwhelming love and connection. And the voice of my dead grandfather came to me. And he's like, I love you, Christopher. It's like, everything's going to be okay, but it's not your time. You need to go back. And I'm just kind of like, no. And I'm like looking down at the crash scene. I'm like, no,
it's
I
going
don't
to
know if
hurt.
I want to go back there. Yeah, maybe I just come with you and we'll call it a day. And he's like, no. So anyway, long story short, yeah, I spiraled back down into my body. And, for the next 3 months, I went through complete, reconstruction with steel plates and rods. And a year later, I had to have heart surgery. I was mangled. But that was my first introduction to basically 5-MeO-DMT. It was naturally released. Yeah. It's released in our bodies when we're born, and it's released in our bodies when we die. And for some people, it gets released if they have near-death experiences. And I've had a few of them. So for me, 20 years later, after that out-of-body experience, I smoke the toad, and it recreates almost the identical experience. So I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, this is, it's the same lessons minus the trauma. And I'm like, how powerful will this be if we can get this out to people in the world? I mean, people that are maybe terminally ill, people that are dealing with trauma. I've worked with so many PTSD-ridden soldiers and, survivors of horrible traumas, and I can relate to them because I've had my fair share. But the toad medicine is it's so quick. It's a 20-minute experience, but it's basically like dying and being reborn again. I'm speaking from my experience. It's different from many different people. I mean, everybody has a different experience, but that's what it was for me. So for me, it's like, if you can have all the lessons, if you look at all these, modern day gurus who have brushes with deaths, and they all talk about, you need to have gratitude, you need to be kinder. The toad can give all those lessons, and it's even better than having, a teacher or a guru kind of preach to you, because this is so intense and personal. Yeah. It's going to create a deep, lasting effect. And it's not only the emotional and the energetic, but literally I can feel on almost like a cellular level, every time that I smoke it, it almost feels like it's regenerating my body. It's really strange and hard to explain. So Johns Hopkins University right now are doing several studies with the toad, and they're studying the peptides, because it's not just the 5-MeO-DMT. There are several other substances and things going on. So that's day one, Kambo and toad. And amazing. On the retreats, it's a pretty full-on introduction.
I'm like smiling. I'm like, I want to go there now and do it, but no, that's dope.
Yeah, no, it's
day one.
That's day one. But what I kind of and there are 7 days. So it's very tiring. I'm sure it's similar to the tiredness you'd feel after one of your retreats. Not a lot of sleep. Pretty intense. Different, but probably the same ending effect. You just feel wrecked when you're done. So, but just to sort of let your listeners know, that's an offering. I've had many people come on our retreats, and never at any point do I push any medicines on anybody. I mean, we have a pretty rigorous schedule, but because I work with a lot of experienced psychonauts. I mean, I've been gifted that a lot of the people that come on my retreats right now are people from Silicon Valley. I have people that work for Microsoft, for Boeing, some very intelligent minds that come, and they want to go deep like that because they've already done the work. Do you know what I mean? So they've already worked through a lot of personal problems, and I don't really like it when people just crash land and they're like, last week I was smoking crack and banging prostitutes, and then I decided I need to heal, so now I'm here. And I'm like, well, it's probably not the best way to approach it, but some people do. I mean, so I prefer to have people a little bit more grounded. That's why I interview people and why I let people choose. So day one, Kambo, toad, and then the next day, we rest during the day, we meet, we talk about the experiences. I can do guided breath work. I'm a firm believer in the Wim Hof method, so I take people through that if they want to do some breath work, because I find that helps to sort of integrate the experience. People want to do some stretching or some light movements. I love to do physical fitness, so I get people doing that. But then the next 3 nights are the ayahuasca ceremonies. I do the 3 ceremonies in a row for a reason. As I said earlier, with the ayahuasca vine having the MAO inhibitor that allows, the DMT to enter your body and then give you the experience that you want. I find it's accumulative. So it's like, if we do 3 nights in a row, generally, you know, the first night's very tough and it's full of purging and working through things. The second night can be a lot of self-reflection. And I find a lot of people have a very euphoric third night, because at that point, you're already sleep deprived a little bit. You've had some hard nights and you don't resist the medicine. The big thing is with people that I see is a lot of us are control freaks, myself included. We don't want to let go of control and we want to guide the experience how we want it. When you do that, it doesn't really help you open the medicine. It actually, it causes you friction and it causes you to battle it a little bit. Once you're tired, you don't resist as much and you can enjoy the experience. So the first night, what we do is, because we have small groups, we do one-on-one meetings with the shaman. Shaman only speaks Spanish, but Kunti, the Mexican medicine woman that works with us, she's fluent in English and Spanish, and she acts as a translator. We try to give people at least a half an hour to an hour with the shaman to introduce themselves, again, share traumas, maybe intentions, things they want to work on. So you have a chance to connect with them before the ceremony starts, which I think is really important, because then it gives the shaman an idea of who you are and how he's going to interact with you. And he'll blend in his Icaros, which are a medicine song, to sort of fit what your intentions are. Yeah. So we do that on the first day before ayahuasca. And then during the ayahuasca ceremony, the night of, we all meet in the Maloka. It's like a temple, sort of like a yoga studio. We have a beautiful hardwood floors, and everybody has their own bed. They have their own purge bucket. There are bathrooms close by. So everybody comes in and we all sit in a circle. There's the shaman, Pepe, and Kunti's by his one side and I'm by his other side. I sort of guard the door. There's an exit that I kind of keep an eye on to make sure we don't have any runners. I've had a few runners, but I haven't lost anybody yet. So I can always track them down pretty quick. So I get a hold of them, get them back into the room. So on the first night, we all sit in the circle, and sometimes our guests will open what's called a dieta. And a dieta is basically, it's a more strict diet where they can go deeper with the medicine, and they can also use and diet other plant medicines, some like tamamori. They have many different types of medicines that we blend together that the shaman offers. They all have, different benefits. You don't have to do that. It's really for people that feel a calling to go a little bit deeper. He serves those medicines first, the dieta medicines, different tree barks and leaves. And like I said, they all have different properties to them. Some help with visions and help you open your medicine a little bit deeper. So those people will receive their dieta medicine if they choose. And then after that, the shaman will serve an initial cup of ayahuasca. On our first night, we don't go too big. We serve a moderate dose to begin to test, people's sensitivity, because some people are a little more sensitive to the medicine than others. He'll go around in a circle and everybody will have a shot of medicine. Once everybody's had a shot of medicine, I check on everybody. I make sure they know where their bucket is. Everybody drinks the medicine except for me. I'm kind of the psychedelic shepherd. I keep an eye on everything. I help people to the bathroom. I hold their hair so they don't throw up with their hair. I don't have that problem, but many others do. So I just sort of take care of people and make sure they feel safe. And if they're struggling, remind them to breathe and remind them to sort of, it's going to be okay. So everybody has the medicine except for me. I check on everybody. Then I turn all the lights off and it goes dark. That's when, as soon as the lights go out, Pepe begins to sing an Icaros. An Icaros is a medicine song. He sings for probably about an hour straight. It's absolutely amazing. It's like I get the treat, because of my job and what I do, I get to sit and listen to him, and it's unbelievable. So what happens is everybody drinks the medicine, the lights go out, he begins to sing. After he's been singing for about a half an hour, he almost starts to call the medicine out in people. And you'll start to hear the first few people purging, maybe moaning a little bit. They're experiencing something. But it kicks the medicine off when people start to purge. Yeah. So they have buckets and they start to throw up. And that's when the medicine really kicks in. So he sings for a full hour. And we kind of watch the room between Kunti, Pepe, and I. We check on everybody, see how they're doing. If some people feel the calling or they're not feeling the medicine, we go around and give a second shot. Because sometimes, people have the first shot and they don't feel anything. And, you've flown all the way to Peru. It's like you want to feel something. So you're kind of on a mission. So we want to make sure that people do get the experience they come for. So we offer a second shot, and those who want it will take one. And then what Pepe does is he will go to each person and sit at the foot of their bed and sing them a personal Icaros that lasts about a half an hour each. So he does a lot of singing in the run of a night. It's pretty full on. I always say it's like a psychedelic rock show. It's, you're you may feel like you're at Neverland, there'll be lights and there'll be all kinds of crazy shit going on. So he goes to each person and sings to them. And then also with the Shipibo, in their beliefs, they believe that tobacco is a protective spirit. So he loads his pipe and he smokes tobacco and uses that to cleanse any negative energies you may be having. He'll spend some time with each person. He goes around to each person, and after he's sung to each person, he goes back to his bed, smokes his pipe again, and then he does what's called a protection Icaros or protection arcana. He basically closes the ceremony and finishes his work. After that's done, Kunti plays medicine songs. So the Icaros are really intense. It's this native tongue of Shipibo language, and it's really can be aggressive, and it's used to call out the medicine. And when he's done his work, Kunti begins, she plays, she has a shamanic drum, beautiful voice. She plays ukulele, different shakers. I join in by playing some guitar. So we just try to bring people down softly with some nice music. If we have musicians with us, which we do quite often, if they brought an instrument or they want to play, we kind of open it to lighten things up and let people express themselves a little bit and sort of enjoy the come down from the ayahuasca. Yeah. When we feel that everybody's sort of come down from the medicine, I'll light a candle, I'll bring out some fresh munya tea, big fruit bowls, and then we just everybody will sit and either talk, or maybe people want to go back to their room, rest and relax, or maybe some people are still in the medicine and we just kind of keep an eye on them and stay with them in the space. But the ending is one of my favorite times because you get to hear, maybe you heard somebody struggling for 2 hours. Some people talk and you can hear them having dialogue with themselves or whatever it may be. And then after you sort of get to see, what the experience was. And so it's a pretty beautiful moment. It's one of my favorite times during the ceremony is the ending when everybody's coming out. But that's pretty much how the next 3 nights run. We do the same thing for the next 3 nights. And then the next day after 3 ayahuasca ceremonies, we have a complete rest day. The rest day can be, I'll take people out. We have a beautiful waterfall that we can go and visit. We can just chat. A lot of people, it's hammock all day long. There's not a lot of movement. It's maybe a bit of breakfast and hammock. And then it's exhausting. It can be extremely exhausting if you're going through emotional and energetic work. It can leave you completely zapped. So the rest day is important. And then on the final day, we work with, depending on the group and what medicines they want to work with. Sometimes we work with psilocybin, magic mushrooms. I really like to work with what's called Wachuma. Wachuma is a cactus. And if you take Wachuma, the active ingredient in Wachuma is mescaline. So what we do on the last day is we cook a big batch of cactus juice, mescaline, or what's referred to as Wachuma. Spanish call it San Pedro, because when they drink it, they see St. Peter in the sky. So it's pretty powerful medicine, but I take people up on the mountain. We go to about almost 5,000 meters above sea level, so we're up in the clouds, and we drink this medicine. And there's just a healing effect. It's something very warm, and when you spend time in nature, I find it's one of the medicines that really helps to integrate the whole week, the experience, and also connect with nature and feel really grounded. So that's our final day. And then the next day we have breakfast and we make sure everybody's okay. Some people leave. I've had people come for a month. I've had people come for 2-3 weeks. What I do in that case is after the medicine work is done, they can stay on, and I offer, we get into training. We do a little more yoga. If people are into jiu-jitsu, we can do a bit of wrestling, a bit of jiu-jitsu. We can do some stuff like that. I find that some people like to stay for a week to integrate, and we can spend time in the mountains, more breath work. Those are all the tools that, psychedelics are great, but it's not a magic medicine that will ayahuasca cure me of my depression? No, ayahuasca won't cure your depression. Getting up every day and doing the right thing to make you feel good will cure your depression. Ayahuasca will show you what those things are. So it drives me nuts because doing this work now for a long time, people are just looking, will this cure me? Is this going to just take care of this? And it's like, No, it will help you on the way, but it's just not magically going to wipe everything away for you. You know, a lifetime of trauma is not taken care of in 3 sittings with ayahuasca. That's just ridiculous. You know, I don't want people thinking, you know, that's just magic, because it's not, but it is beautiful. And it's very, very reflective, you know, especially with our emotional body. You know, like even with me, one of my ayahuasca experiences, going back through my whole life and looking at things like either romantic relationships, work relationships, family, and just like realizing I was a fucking asshole and having to sit there and, you know, like, wow, like actually I was the asshole. It wasn't everybody else, you know, damn.
It was me.
Like, so it was me all, it's not you, it's me. It's like, it truly is. So it's like, that's the power of, like, the analogy I always use is, you know, I've been through a lot of my life. I've struggled with heroin, cocaine addiction, alcoholism, all those things. And I got shipped off at one point to a rehab facility for 3 months. I spent that 3 months bullshitting every single one of my therapists. And I thought I was being smart because, you know, I'm pretty intellectual. I'm well read. I know my way around a conversation. Okay, I'm going to manipulate this conversation so I don't have to deal with any of the uncomfortable stuff. I just jump through the hoops, and then I get out and I'm fine. It's like, you just cheated yourself. You totally played yourself. With ayahuasca, it's like you're sitting in the dark with your ego, and Mother Ayahuasca is the therapist, and she can see through all of your bullshit. There's no way around it. So you can't squirm. You can't, you know, be smart and try. Like, that's what's so powerful about the psychedelic experience is there's no bullshit. I mean, there's so much fucking bullshit in the world right now, more now than ever, that people are tired of it. It's like even our own bullshit. Like, I mean, like, you know, like I said, I've listened to your podcast, and it's like, you're very, you know, blunt. You put things how it is. And you're also very, you know, you can self-critique, which a lot of people can't do because it's so much easier to point the finger. And ayahuasca and all these psychedelics, they don't give you that option. They smack you down, put you in the corner and be like, it's you work through it now. This is it. You know what I mean? It's like, which is good for stubborn people. You know, I have a lot of Irish and Russian friends, and there's a joke about how they're all, you know, that like the therapy, you know, it doesn't work on them. I can tell you from experience, ayahuasca does.
It does.
It does. You know, anyway, I just rambled on for a really long time.
No, that was amazing. I was gonna say, thank you so much. Like, I've never had anyone explain it in detail. So that is like, no, that is dope. And you're so right. Like, I feel like it's cheat codes to life, and psychedelics are cheat codes. And it's like, no, you can't bullshit here. But then again, as you said, there is no such thing as a quick fix to anything, but it helps you to maybe look from a different perspective and be like, fuck. You said one thing there which I thought was cool as well, and that's for anyone looking to go into this. I feel like this is probably the final thing that you would probably do after doing some things leading up to it. And I actually said that in my introduction, that I want to do ayahuasca, but I know that I wasn't ready, or I'm not ready yet, and I feel like Mother Ayahuasca would like give me a wallop and like put me on my ass because I'm not ready yet, and it would just be like, I want to do it. So
yeah, well, just to say, nobody's ever ready. It's like, nobody. In all my experience now, I can see even the people that think they're ready. It's like, no, you're not ready. You know, so to me, it's you have to have the calling. Yeah. You're not going to be ready because you can prepare so much for it. And it's like, and also too, I don't want to paint a picture that it's always difficult, because literally some people come and it's total bliss for them. I mean, people that I've met too that have been through a lot of trauma. And I think, you know, I had one lady who she's like, yeah, I want to smoke toad on the anniversary of the day that my mother committed suicide. And I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's like, you know, but it's like, so you meet people that have had such severe trauma, and sometimes their experience is beautiful and it helps them let go. So, you know, for your listeners, you know, I always tell people, don't refer to Dr. Google. Because if you get on Dr. Google is going to tell you that, you know, so many people have died from ayahuasca. It's like, I'll tell you for a fact, the majority of people that have died from ayahuasca, and there, you know, it's not like there's been a lot, but there have been people who have come on retreats. They usually die because they diet tobacco. Tobacco is what they consider another master plant. It's a teacher plant, and people drink tobacco juice. If you drink liquid tobacco and lay down on your back and pass out and nobody's taking care of you, you can asphyxiate yourself through, choking on your own vomit. So it's like, even in the video, The Last Shaman on Netflix with Pepe, there's a guy in the ceremony that passes away because nobody's taking care of him. That's why I specifically do not drink the medicine. Yeah. I do not drink the medicine because a lot of places, they're really hippy dippy and woo woo. And they're like, no, man, everybody has to drink the medicine. It's like, look, fucker, I'm going to have my doctor on speed dial. I've got an oxygen tank. I'm trained in CPR. If shit goes sideways, somebody has to deal with it. Yeah. And that's about being responsible. So it's like, yeah, man, peace and love. And we can all drink and that's great. But if we get into a situation, I want to make sure that people are safe. I mean, not only speaking of that, because I talked to you when we were setting up for this, we were discussing about the safety issues and what I do. It's like I've seen in a lot of other retreat centers, they pack 20 people into a room. They might have one or two facilitators, and it's madness. It's like it's just there's nobody being taken care of. There's no people watching over. So it's like for your listeners. I mean, I love this work. So I mean, obviously, I want people to come and see me and come to my retreat. But I've also talked with many people who decide, hey, they want to go somewhere else. And that's fine. I still spend time talking to them. And for your listeners, like I'll give my contact info. Reach out and talk to me if you have questions because there's so much unknown. And I would feel better if I can at least guide people to a good place where they're going to be taken care of properly. Because as much as ayahuasca and psychedelics can help, if done improperly, they can hurt as well. They can leave people traumatized. If you're not approaching it the right way and you're not taking it seriously, I just want to go to Peru and trip balls. And it's like, well, maybe not.
Maybe think again. Maybe not the
place. Yeah. Try some ecstasy and come and see me after, do some other things. But it's one of those medicines that ayahuasca, for me, it's not a party drug. I mean, it can be fun, but it's deep emotional and energetic work, So I think it's really important that you have to connect, like I'm not really like, I'm sure like my viewpoint on things is I'm not really into the woo woo. I'm not into like crystal healing. I'm not into all these, but I work with Kunti and she is, and I respect that. And that's part of, people, you can disagree with people, like I don't really believe in astrology, but some people really do, and it's one of those things that, I try to create a space where you can come and have your ideas and your beliefs and nobody's going to judge you for it, but I don't want you pushing it on other people that don't want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? It's everybody comes and we respect one another and how we want to work with the medicine. Because, one of my biggest pet peeves is I've been to centers before where, the person overseeing is like, no, that's not how you do it. You need to do it like this. And it's like, maybe you should worry more about your personal stuff and just help people through the experience. Make sure they're safe and let them take away from it, guide them, but don't try to control the experience. Because, at the end of the day, if I've learned anything from psychedelics, it's nobody's in control and nobody has a fucking clue what's going on. They don't, it's like, no matter what they tell you, it's like, they're lying.
Yeah, no, honestly. And I think we may as well just talk about safety. It was going to be a couple points time, but it was roll with this one because that's why I wanted to get you on basically, because so many people will heard about this from the Joe Rogan podcast or this, or they Google, they think it's cool and they're just like, fuck yeah, I'm going to go to the middle of the forest with my backpack and I know nothing about anything and I just want to do drugs. And it's like, no, dude, this is serious. This is like the top of the top. Don't fuck with something like this. So
very serious.
Yes, that's why I love the fact you've gone out there and semi-westernized it and you're the safety and you're the person they can, it's like, yeah, they're rock. Like if they're freaking out, they can speak to you. They're not looking around and it's the jungle and they're like, holy fuck. So I guess if you had any input about the safety, also the importance of having a good shaman who is there for the right reasons.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I can sort of give the experiences that I've had in regards to safety and in regards to safety, why I've created this program.
Yeah.
For me, one of the things that drives me absolutely fucking nuts is that we have a responsibility, working with this medicine that, obviously we don't know it all, but we know enough how to create a safe space and what's ethical and what's not. Yeah. Jamming 20 people into a place that should only have 15 and not having enough staff to take care of them is unethical and you're going to hurt people. And I've seen that. I've seen shamans who touch women inappropriately while they're under the medicine because everything is dark, which, like I said, for me, it enrages me because you take a woman or a man, whoever it may be, who's been sexually abused as a child and they've dealt with that trauma their whole life and they finally build up the courage to come and deal with it. Yeah. And they get a fucking shaman ended up sexually abusing them and re-traumatizing them. That could be the end for them. Yeah. That could force them into a situation where then they feel like suicide's the only option. And that's a reality because, you know, it's very hard to deal with your deep-rooted traumas. And if you just go to any old center and you're left alone, and like I said, I've seen this, I'm not going to put anybody on blast. I could name places, but to me, it's like, it doesn't do any good. You know, I'd rather just tell people the right places to go and the good places to go. But I spent time down in the jungle. And I don't know, maybe some of your listeners will remember this, but the time that I was in the jungle, there was actually a Canadian man who was down there and he was trying to basically heal himself, but he was a bit mentally ill. And at the time, he ended up killing one of the Shipibos and he got lynched. The video went viral. He got lynched in the jungle. So there was a warning about traveling. So, I mean, these are the types of, the jungle is lawless. When you get down into the jungle, it's really hard. You know, I've been in some pretty hectic spaces in my life and, you know, some places that are, you know, very close to war zones, if you know what I mean. There's been, you know, a lot of violence, a lot of bad things. The jungle is one of those places. It's beautiful, but if you don't go down with the right people and go to the right space, you could end up being stuck in a center with a shaman who's not really present, not responsible. Like, you know, I was telling you, like the shaman that I lived with, I tried to set up a business in the jungle and I spent, you know, just over 3 months living in the Amazon. And at the end of it, I'm like, this is no place to like, you know, there are some safe places, but for me, it was just, it's too lawless. And there was no, you know, you're not close to any type of civilization. It's hours and hours away and you're in the jungle. Yeah. That being said, something that I am going to introduce is working in the jungle, but it's going to be, you know, with a shaman that I now have been working with that I trust, because I'm sitting with a shaman in the jungle and we've just finished all the ceremonies and I look over and he's got his Tinder open and he's swiping right. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, you know, he's already got a beer cracked. He's already had a beer outside and he's now swiping on his Tinder. And I'm like, I'm not judging. Hey, you like beer and Tinder? Cool. I have fun. You try to take the path of a shaman, you should probably leave the beer and the Tinder behind for a little while, especially when you're working. Do you know what I mean? So energetically, it just, and what it is, unfortunately for me, is I had romanticized, you know, some of the shamans in the jungle. Like, I'm going to go and work with this family and, you know, they're all going to be living off the land and they're going to be connected to the earth and it's going to be amazing. Yeah. When I got there, it was basically like I arrived at a trash dump. They had no place to put their garbage. They didn't grow any crops. They bought everything from the nearby city that they went to visit. So I kind of, like I said, I'm sure there's still real shamans out there. And, you know, the one that I'm working with now that I feel, but some of them, and you know, this is, again, no judgment. I can't imagine what it would be like to have grown up in the jungle and have to live that life. But a lot of them now, it's just a chance to make money. Yeah. So they're not so concerned. There are still some good shamans who take time, and that's sort of, you know, people choosing to go to a place. Don't go to Dr. Google. Don't go to the place that says it's the #1 ayahuasca retreat in Peru because there's fucking 30 of them that say there's #1. You know, it's like that's, I got conned. I got conned on that one. I'm like, it's #1. I'm like, #1. It's like, I'm like, and then when I get here, it's like, oh, it's like #1 out of 30 #1. So, okay, you know, so don't go to Dr. Google. My biggest advice is if you contact a center and you cannot get anybody, an actual human on the phone to talk to, do not go there because they don't give a shit. That's what it comes down to. They don't want to, you know, it's like the first place that I went when I came down here, they said, oh, you're going to have a meeting with the doctor. And I'm like, a phone meeting before you come. And I'm like, okay, great. You know, I can talk about, you know, all my injuries and my heart surgery and my depression and my PTSD. I get the doctor on the phone and literally it's a 1-minute conversation. How you doing, Chris? I'm so happy that you're going to join us. so you feel okay? I'm like, yeah, I feel pretty good. I'm excited. Great. Well, okay, then we'll see you down there. It's like,
Oh, no.
wow. Okay. That was the doctor call. And then I found out when I was already down here, he's not even a doctor. He's just some dude on the fucking phone. So I'm like, guys, because I mean, again, you know, it's like these third world countries. There's not a lot of regulations, and you can pretty much, anybody can set anything up and kick it off, and, you know, you can fly under the radar. So biggest advice for safety, if anybody's looking at a center, they don't want to come and visit me and they want to go somewhere else that looks appealing to them, get somebody on the phone. If you cannot get a person on the phone and they will only email with you, it basically is just another meat market. It's just like, get as many people in and we rotate every week. You know, I've been to places where it's 20 new people every week and it's just a conveyor belt. It's not, there's no, you know, follow-up call. There's no checking in. I stay in contact with all our guests. I mean, I've had people now, we've been officially doing this for 2 years. I have people who have come 4 times. And I stay in contact with them because they're doing work. You know, they want to come back. They want to explore further. So I want to create a lifelong relationship with the guests, because I learn as much from them as I learn from myself. I mean, I can learn just as much in an ayahuasca ceremony where I don't drink and just help people as when I drink a huge cup to myself. You know, it's a different vibe, but I think that when we open ourselves with these medicines, the people we do it with, we create a pretty deep connection. You know, it's like if you ever hear people that do martial arts, it's like your jiu-jitsu brothers you'll never forget because you beat the shit out of one another every day and you suffer together and it creates a good bond. Well, there can be suffering with psychedelics as well. And if you work through it as a team and you're all there supporting, those relationships will last a lifetime. You know, they really will.
Yeah, no, that is so amazing. It's such an important point that you actually pick somebody who is a shaman for the right reasons, and they're for the right reasons because, as you mentioned, in some of these, I guess, poorer countries as well, just money looks good. And if something's a hot topic and they can get to the top of Google, then they would do it just for that sake. But no, it's very important.
And again, they're doing it to survive, and I can't wrong them for that. And some of them do great work, but I just feel that if your heart's not really in it because you love it, do you know what I mean? There's lots of other things I could go and do, but I love this. To me, it's like, you know, and I always say, like, when I worked in Thailand, I worked there for about 4 or 5 years working with people and doing fasting and yoga. And I would see all these emotions come up and I would work with people, and sometimes they'd stay for a month, they'd get great results. But then they go back to the regular situation. They just fall into old habits and nothing really stuck. Yeah. But what I see with psychedelics is it creates such a deep impact that it lasts for a long time after that. Those lessons, it's not like, hey, you know, I ate healthy for a month and I did my yoga and, you know, my workouts and I feel great and now I'm going to go just slip back in. Psychedelics create this deep impact that has ripple effects. That people will feel a year later. It's like those lessons, it's like a near-death experience, you know? You don't just shake it off. You take it seriously because it's major. Yeah. You ask anybody that's worked with psychedelics, it will for sure be either top 3 or top 5 experiences of their life. It's right up there with falling in love, losing somebody close. You know what I mean? It's way up there on experiences. It's not like anything else. It's amazing. That's why I love it, and why, you know, for me, like I said, I'd love to stay in touch with people because for me, it's like it's a study to see how strong these effects are. It's amazing.
Yeah, and how it passes through their lives. So I guess you've touched on this a bit. So overall, what are the main benefits of ceremony, psychedelics, or any notable like changes or massive breakthroughs that you've noticed in yourself or people who've come to you for ceremony?
Okay, I would have to say without a doubt, the most powerful thing that I've seen is the ego death. Mm-hmm. So the ego death is pretty profound. So let me give you, like I said, I'm not going to name any names because all of our guests that come, I mean, some of them don't mind talking about it, but you know, I don't want to put anybody, you know, name anybody because maybe they want to keep it private. But I can tell the story anyway. So I had this gentleman who was. He was rated one of Forbes' top 40 under 40. Yeah. So basically, entrepreneurs and business people that have reached, you know, a very high level. So I had this guy. He came to visit, and like I said, he's Forbes' top 40 under 40. He's an entrepreneur. He's creating businesses. He's working in India and LA and New York. I mean, he's worldwide. I mean, this kid is fucking smart. And, I'm just meeting him, and, right away we start talking about Elon Musk, and, we start talking about all these different, theories about life. And, it was very interesting, but he's very much an intellect, and he's always in his head. So it's like, sometimes you meet those people and you teach them yoga and you tell them to raise their right hand and they raise their left foot because they're so disconnected from their physical body, right? They have no idea, where they are is in the real world. Their head's always off. And that's a great thing. So this guy comes and he spends the week with us, and he goes through the whole thing. And, he had his initial Kambo and toad, and the toad was an amazing experience. But the first toad that he had with us, he was a runner. He jumped up out of the Maloka and ran outside. And he kept looking at me. He's like, I know Elon Musk is out here watching us. This is a simulation theory. It's a simulation. And he's going off on all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa. So I wrangle him up and get him back in. And he has his 3 nights of ayahuasca, and it's beautiful, but it's not super impactful. He had a great experience, but he had worked a lot with LSD, and, it wasn't as powerful as some of his LSD trips. So on the last final day, he approaches me and he's like, I really want to reconnect with the toad. I feel that, I've had a great week, but I just feel like I didn't get the breakthrough I was looking for. And, and we do that. I mean, that's how we, I really am grateful to anybody that chooses to come with us. So we try to facilitate the best experience possible. So I talked to Kunti and we're like, how do we think? He's had a full day to recover from his ayahuasca. I never recommend people smoke toad a day after ayahuasca because it's just too intense. So he has a day rest, and then we're like, okay, we go up into this mountain area. We're sitting by a lake up in the mountains, and we've got a Peruvian family that has a farm that takes care of us, and they make some food for us, and they laugh at us go through our ceremonies. Some people scream, some people cry. They kind of watch it all. But we get this guy, and we go through the last ceremony, and he's sitting outside. And we set him up, and I let Kunti work with him, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on our other guests who have been drinking Wachuma. And he goes into his experience, and I sort of watch, and I see that he goes, as soon as he has the hit from the toad pipe, he goes deep into a shavasana where he lays back and he doesn't move. Yeah. And for 20 minutes, this guy, all he does, and I always just watch the breathing pattern. I can see his belly and his chest rising and falling, so he's doing fine, and he's just so calm, and he's laying there. He opens his eyes after about 20 minutes, and he looks over at me, and there are tears streaming down his face. So I go over and I give him a hug, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he grabs me really tight, and he pulls me close, and he's like, "That's the first time my mind has ever been silent." He's like, thank you. And he just starts to cry. He's like, I know that I can silence my mind now. Yeah. And I was just like, holy fuck. Like, so here's this guy that has, he's probably never turned his fucking brain off in his life. Yeah. And he's just had this ego death where he's entered a void. And for him, it was the most beautiful thing. And I still talk to him to this day. And he's just like, man, he's like, that experience will never leave me, because now, he does a lot of meditation. He can actually access that pathway and that feeling through deep meditation now, so that for me, the ego death, and it's not just with a guy like him, because we've had other people with ego death. It helps them realize that they're part of something greater. They're part of a whole. You know what I mean? Again, it's those near-death experiences that it's like the first thing you think is, I want to see my family. I want to be a better person. I want to be kinder. I want to apologize to those people I fucked over, whatever it is. It's like it creates this. You just want to be a better person. I don't know. I guess that's, you want to do better. You want to be kinder. It's not all like, you're not driven so much by, it's great to make money, but you're not so hell bent that you're going to fuck people over and do bad things to do it. You want to be a good person and be able to make money and still be a good person. It's fascinating. So that for me was one of the main things that stood out about this guy that came the top scorer under 40. I'll give you another really quick, like I said, I'm rambling a lot, so I don't want to talk too much. Interesting.
It's very interesting.
I'll give my personal experience of what ayahuasca did for me. Yeah. I said to you earlier that ayahuasca, I feel it's not a magic pill, that it doesn't magically just cure things and they go away. I think it shows us lessons that we need to learn. But I do think sometimes ayahuasca can help us release deep-rooted trauma. So for me, when I was 9 years old, I had a bucket of burning gasoline kicked on my legs, and I suffered third-degree burns to about, I'd say, 60% of my legs. There's a whole story behind it. I won't go into too much of the details, but anyway, I ended up at a children's burn unit. And I spent 3 months in a children's burn unit where I had to go to the burn bath every day. They do skin grafting surgeries. When I was in the burn unit, I was only 9 years old. In the room next to me, there was an infant who had been burned in a really bad fire. And when you smell burnt flesh and you hear the screams from an infant, those are things that will haunt you for the rest of your life. So I was a 9-year-old kid. It was like being in a fucking horror movie every day. When I recovered from that, nobody ever talked to me about PTSD or depression or any of that stuff. It was just like, I need to learn how to walk again. I need to get going. I need to get my body moving. Okay. Yeah. I developed a reoccurring nightmare where for decades, I would sometimes wake up in a sweat because I would be back in that burn unit, hearing the baby scream, and I was trying to climb to the baby, but I couldn't walk. So I was crawling on the floor in a hallway. And the nightmare would just be me crawling and this kid screaming, and I could never get to the kid to help him. So for decades, I would have this reoccurring nightmare. There was a situation where I drank the medicine down in the jungle, and it transported me back to the children's burn unit with the child screaming. And it was like there were all these babies that were burned, and it was horrific. Like I said, it was like one of the most horrible horror movies you can imagine, but it was real. So Mother Ayahuasca takes me back to the burn unit and puts me for about a half an hour into the horror that had haunted me for a large part of my life. And in an instant, Mother Ayahuasca took this form of like a creature, like a bird-like creature that had, hummingbirds around her head as a crown and vines and it just natural, like just something. She scooped me up out of the burn unit and lifted me up, and we started flying. And for hours, I'm in the jungle, Maloka, but I'm actually under the wings of what, is symbolic of Mother Ayahuasca. And we just fly everywhere. And it let me go into the trauma, face it again, go through it, but then lift me back up and be like, it's okay. Like this is over. You don't need to, it's over now. And since that was 2 years ago, I had that experience. I have not had that nightmare once since. So, beautiful. So for me, it's like, okay, maybe Mother Ayahuasca does have a little magic power to her after all, like I always fight the woo woo, but there's a lot of things I can't explain. And that's what I love about psychedelics is the fact that, you always have to keep your mind open to the unimaginable. You have to. I think especially in this day and age where people are losing hope, we don't trust our governments. We're getting fucked over. We're being lied to. We're being controlled. And there's so much bullshit. You want something real, take a psychedelic trip. It'll put things in perspective. It'll help. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to bullshit you. It's going to give you the goods. It'll give you the straight to the truth, right to your face.
Literally.
So yeah.
No,
yeah.
That's beautiful that allowed you to revisit that trauma, but replace that scared child, I guess, with somebody holding you and be like, no, it's okay. Like, but
it's okay.
Yeah, where your mind probably would have switched that off or tried to erase that, and it only popped up in your dreams. Now it's like, no, we'll deal with it, but I'll walk you through it. So that's fucking beautiful.
Exactly.
As a random side question, you mentioned people's bond with each other and you. I was just wondering from like a social perspective, how are they like when they get there and then when they leave? Because I know me personally, the one thing that I would be scared about doing is just like having people around me I don't know and shitting and vomiting with strangers and thinking they're watching me. And I feel like that would be something that would play on my head that would make me not want to go fully into the experience, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you mean. We actually had a woman who came to visit us that one of her phobias was throwing up and being watched while she threw up, which I'm like, so she really stepped out of the comfort zone. I'm like, you know what ayahuasca is going to make you do, right?
Hello to your strangers.
Face your fears. It's like,
literally.
No, it's a very real thing. So that being said, when you're purging, you don't see anybody purging because the Maloka is dark. Yep. So nobody's actually watching you. However, when I have people that have phobias or don't want to be watched, I help people to the bathroom. They can shut the bathroom door, but I stay outside the bathroom door. Yeah. So you have to get comfortable with people hearing you vomit, but nobody's going to actually watch you. Yeah. Besides, most people are so into the medicine that they don't care what you're doing. They've got their own problems to get through. Do you know what I mean? So, I accommodate. So if any of the medicines that cause purging, like the Kambo or the Ayahuasca, sometimes the Wachuma, I make sure that people know beforehand, hey, I'm here to take care of you. I'll get you to the bathroom. You can lay on the bathroom floor. You can purge in private, but I'll always every 5 minutes, how you doing? You doing okay? You know, you still alive in there? Those kinds of things. But yeah, as far as people being afraid of that, I say, hey, you know what? Go after it. I mean, so many times in my life that I've faced my fears, there's mega rewards on the other side. There really are.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've listened, like I said, I've been listening to some of your podcasts. It's all about facing, you know, it's like moving to a new country, recreating yourself. How many fucking times have I done that? I mean, it's, you know, I remember when I was working in Thailand, everybody was like, oh, you've got it easy. How come you get to work in Thailand? It's like, bitch, because I was broke for a fucking year trying to make it work. Yeah. It's like, you know, it's like, you think I just got handed to me? I was like, I was in the trenches trying to make it work, and, you know, everything was failing and I couldn't make ends meet. It's like, but that's the same with that. I mean, you step out of the comfort zone. I know it's cliche. I mean, the magic happens outside the comfort zone, but it's true. You know, it really is. So, hey, if you don't want people to see you throw up, you're not going to be watched, but, you know, you're going to be looked after. So it's not going to be, you're not going to be on display while you're, you know, we've had people shit themselves in ceremonies. Nobody wants to talk about, I have, you know, there's no shame. It's like, I want to get shirts made that say I shit myself and survived. You know, it's like, you know, it's a little embarrassing, but hey, that's what it is.
Happened. No.
Never trust a fart in an ayahuasca room. That's for sure. It's like, not to be crude, but it's the truth, you know.
So, how did you yourself end up in Peru to start the retreats and end up where you are now?
Wow, so that's a pretty.
You don't have to. You can just point.
So starting from childhood, or no, I won't go too far back. I can say the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing. I can give you sort of the Coles Notes version. Yeah. I've suffered a lot of trauma in my life. I've suffered a lot of physical trauma. I've suffered a lot of mental and emotional trauma. I've suffered with PTSD, depression, OCD, you know, to a crippling effect, you know, being so OCD, I can't leave the apartment, being so depressed after heart surgery that I start snorting OxyContin and I start drinking whiskey at noontime. Like, I've been through a lot of fucking trauma. And when I went to Thailand, I had done a lot of work on myself through yoga, a lot of counseling. I went down for a year the path of pharmaceuticals, which had me at the end of that, you know, sitting in a bathtub with a loaded shotgun ready to blow my brains out. It's like, so I don't recommend pharmaceuticals to anybody unless you absolutely need them. You know what I mean? I think there are a few, you know, some people who are schizophrenic or severely bipolar, maybe a bit of lithium can help. But people that are suffering depression should really make sure that it's real depression. And it's just, you know, what's the quote, that you're not surrounded by assholes. You know, when I tell people I'm depressed, I'm like, okay. And then I start, well, what's your schedule like? And then I find out they're drinking whiskey and snorting coke. It's like, well, maybe you're depressed because of the cocaine. You might, let's get you off that shit first and see where you're at. So, so that's what kind of took me to Thailand, is when I got myself turned around and I had sort of gotten myself healthy. I started working at the retreat center in Thailand and managing people's fasting programs. And I've always been fascinated to work with people because I'm always been attracted to the darkness. I mean, I'm in a community with yoga and plant medicine. Everybody's love and light. And I'm sort of like, you know, I'm more hate and darkness. I want to look at why people hate and why they have, like, that's what fascinates me. I mean, I want to dig deep into why people develop these really unhealthy patterns, whether it be with, you know, codependent relationships or boozing and partying to the point of, you know, not even partying because you're not doing it anymore. Like when I was drinking and doing drugs, you know, at first it was fun, and at the end it was just really self-medicating and numbing. So I've always really enjoyed to work with people because of the experiences I've had, you know, with addiction and mental illness, and then helping people with health coaching and getting them healthy again. When I was in Thailand, it was good for a while, but then the place that I was managing sort of got a corporate squeeze. They started watering down their green juice, cutting out activities and cutting corners to save money. And it was all, the bottom line was about the dollar. So I ended up getting into some health issues and stress related. I ended up getting rushed home to Canada. I had to have a massive stomach surgery. They believed I had pancreatic cancer. Turned out it wasn't. It was just a pseudocyst on my pancreas. So it was another near-death experience. And I went through the surgery. When I got back on my feet, I went down. I was teaching yoga and fitness down in the Maldives working at a few resorts down there and bouncing back and forth. And then it was my dream, like, okay, now that I've recovered, I want to create the retreat center that I want. I want my OCD. I want complete creative control over everything. Like,
welcome to my life.
I give the recipes for the juice. I teach so it's like, but I had a vision. I'm like, let's create something fucking amazing that's not cutting corners and it's giving people the best experience. So we create relationships and we start to build a community. So long story short, I tried to set that up in Thailand. I got involved with a few shady characters who had, said, oh, we have a great opportunity here. Long story short, I went after setting up my own retreat center. I got involved with somebody who was trying to con me, found out they were trying to con me. So rejected their offer. Then they hired Thai crackheads to kill me, and they ran me out of fucking Koh Samui. So I'm like, okay. So I landed back in Canada, and I'm like, holy fuck! Like that didn't go as planned. So back to the drawing board, and I was like, I remember it because, after a major stomach surgery, and then trying to set up a business, and having the business fail, and then having my life threatened, and crash landing back, I'm like, what have I always wanted to do? I'm like, I've got a bit of savings. Well, it's like I've wanted to go to Peru for the last 20 years. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go do my own healing. Fuck all these people. I don't want to get into business. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I come down to Peru. I go in for 3 weeks of, 3 ayahuasca ceremonies every week, a toad every week, Wachuma. And I did all the work for 3 weeks. I approached it the way, the best way that I could. I found a lot of deep healing. And it was like, I ended up at the end, I stayed on in one of these centers and just offered, to take care of things. I said, hey, I talked to the owner of one place and said, I run retreats and I know how to work with people and I don't mind staying on. You guys, I'll volunteer and I'll stay on for a little bit and figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And, I still wanted to do the retreat center. So basically after about 2 months of being, just offering my services and helping people out and learning as much as I could, I encountered a couple of gentlemen from Australia who said, hey, you know what? It's been our dream to run an ayahuasca center in Peru. We want you to manage it. And I'm like, boom, okay, done. So that's how it happened. It was one of those things, again, like I know that you talk about a lot when you're talking to people. It's like, I came to a new country. I didn't know anybody. I got a one-way ticket. Bring it on. Let's go. What happened? You know what I mean? Like, let's see what happens. The rest is history. And it's like, so again, all the haters, well, why do you get to trip balls in Peru? It's like, cause I put the work in. I took the chance, and it's the same with you with your business. It's like, lots of people, probably hating that you have such a fun job. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm sure there are elements of it that's fun, but it's still work. It's still, a lot of work to travel, and taking care of people is not, we do it in a different capacity. I'm sure you have runners and you have people that you lose on your retreats, but I mean, that's what it is, right?
Yep. Adult babysitter.
Yeah, adult babysitter. It's exactly what I'm doing, but I love it, and I'm sure you do too. And we wouldn't do it. Like, that's what I notice about you. I can see that you genuinely love what you do and you love to work with people. That being said, it's not always easy, but it's fulfilling and it's rewarding to give people one of the best experiences of their life, and to me, life is all about experiences. I've been on my deathbed so many times, and some of the most miserable people that I've met are people that have homes in the south of France, Bentleys, mansions, and just empty. Yeah. So for me, it's like when I've been on my deathbed, I never thought about, I'm so glad that I worked overtime and got that extra $1,000. And no, I'm so glad that I went to Thailand. I'm so glad that I went to Peru. I'm so glad that, I had a chance to work with these people. Like, experiences and relationships are the true gold of what we do. They really are. I mean, to me, it's like, that's, when you're on your deathbed, you think about all the loves that you had, you think about the experiences you had, like those are the things that matter. So I just wanted to create this and give people one of the best experiences possible. So, when they're at the end of their life, that's something that they'll remember. Like, damn, that was fucking epic.
That is fucking beautiful. No, and you're doing it. No, that's amazing. Oh my God. So advice to anyone who is about to do this for the first time.
First time. Well, again, let me go back. Don't, not too much Dr. Google, a little bit. You know, it's always good to listen to Joe Rogan and to Aubrey Marcus and, you know, Tim Ferriss and all these people that are leading the charge in the psychedelic renaissance.
Yeah.
Listen to positive things if it's your first time. And if it's your first time, again, don't focus on negativity. Like don't focus on, oh, it's going to be so hard. It's going to be so difficult. Try your best not to have expectations. Yeah. So for me, you know, my expectation is I'm going to get so high. I'm going to meet aliens. I'm going to meet this. And my first 2 nights I sat in the dark with nothing. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing this wrong. I did everything right. But my biggest piece of advice is no expectations, and find a center or people you connect with that you feel that it's right. If you get a wrong gut feeling, follow it. Don't go. Do you know what I mean? Like connect with somebody. And the advice that I gave, I'll give the same advice. If you see a center, try to get somebody on the phone. If you can't get anybody on the phone and an actual human to talk to, it's probably not the right place. Yeah. You know, they're probably too busy, or they're more focused on just, or, you know, shut up. Are you going to pay or not? You know, next. Yeah. It's, you know, so that's the big thing. Yeah. And if any first timers, like I said, for all your listeners, and I really appreciate you having me on to talk about it, because I think that the world needs to know more. And that's why I share all my stories about it. I want people to know more, because it is still a very, although it's starting to get mainstream, there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of things. So any of your listeners out there, and this isn't, you know, it's not a sales call. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Yeah. If you have first timers that are worried, feel free to reach out and contact me. The website is earthmedicineexperience.com, and there's a direct link to my WhatsApp. I'll also leave my social media. It's Christopher Mitchell Allen on Facebook and on Instagram. You can either go through the website, WhatsApp, or email through that, or social media. My number's out there. And I really, like I said, I just love to talk to people. And even if people are just curious and they just want to chat, I always have time. I mean, I make time for it, because it's, to me, it's spreading the word. That's, you know, running a successful retreat is one of my objectives, but also just getting the information out and convincing more people to have this experience is one of my other purposes. So, you know, whether it be, you know, because there's tons of places that people can go in Australia. I mean, I know people there for a fact that are cooking the medicine. Yeah. Other people, there's a lot of dogmatic thinking about, oh, you can only drink ayahuasca in the Amazon. And it's like, you know, that's kind of closed-minded thinking. It's like, maybe people don't want to be attacked by mosquitoes and have anacondas and fucking, I could get into all kinds of stories about my jungle. And I had a spider lay eggs in my arm. I had to go back to Canada to have egg sac cut out of my forearm. So it's like, jungle's not for everybody. So not, you know, you know, there's lots of different things that we can do. I do want to bring I want to bring the plant medicines with, I still respect tradition. And people listening to this, don't get me wrong. Like, I laugh a lot. I like to have fun. That's because I believe laughter is a medicine. It's the same as music. It's the same as movement. It's the same as you dance, you take people to dance festivals. There's something so freeing about just going fucking crazy and just dancing and letting it all go. Yeah. That can be a psychedelic experience as well. Breath work, doing deep breath work, all these things. So, I mean, there's lots of different tools and, you know, but like I said, my advice to people is reach out and talk to people who have had the experience. But remember, it's your experience. Don't have expectations. You know, Joe Rogan's experience is going to be different than Mike Tyson's experience. It's going to be different than Tim, like all these people that talk about it. That's their own personal experience. So make sure that you have your own, you know, it's like, and not have expectations of what it's going to be like. Yeah.
You're honestly just making me want to go to the airport, get them to open the borders for one, but then go to Peru and do ceremony.
Do it.
Literally.
Well, I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to have people here in September. So we've got 4 retreats planned before the end of the year. Yeah. I'm hoping September happens. If not, I'm almost certain that we'll be good to go in October. But like I said, I've got an extra big cup of ayahuasca for you waiting here. So.
Dude, I'll need it after all this COVID shit.
So when you're not ready, come on down and visit us.
Literally. Yeah. Only a couple more questions left. I wanted to know if you think who shouldn't do ayahuasca, or is there anybody that you've said no to or that you didn't want around a group of people?
I have. Part of my responsibility is to protect the space of the retreat. Yeah. I had a retreat with a gentleman who works for Microsoft. He's a family man. He has kids. He has a wife, very successful. Another gentleman who was retired from Boeing, successful engineer, very, very intelligent, well-spoken, had already cooked the medicine. Another person who was an entrepreneur who was very successful. I had these people on one retreat, and there was a common theme. They all have done work on themselves. They all were highly experienced with psychedelics and wanted to go really deep. And I had a 19-year-old girl from California connect with me and asked to come on the retreat. And she was just coming out of an abusive relationship. She had not quite yet gotten over, had sort of stopped drinking and stopped the cocaine. So she wants to come on that retreat. Wrong retreat. I protect the space by saying, I didn't deny her. I'm like, hey, you know what? This might not be the one. This might not be the right time. Let's, and I still worked with her, like, to help, get her off the stuff that she was in and prepare herself correctly. So I've turned people away if, in order to protect the other guest's experience. Yeah. And that's why people trust me, because they're not going to be, one of the centers that I worked at with 20 people with the 1-minute medical screening don't even get the people that have schizophrenia. I had one guy, I nicknamed him Korean Zombie because he's this Korean dude. And the day before he drinks ayahuasca, he shaves half of his head, but it's really sloppy. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay. And like when I first met him, I said, I put my hand out to shake his hand. And I said, oh, welcome to the place I was at. And I'm like, really nice to see you. He looks at me and he says, I want to smoke the toad 10 times. I'm like, oh, okay. And your name was, I want to smoke the toad 10 times. Can I do that? I'm like, well, let's do the introduction first. Yeah. So again, probably not the right guy. I told the people at that retreat center, this guy should not drink the medicine. Yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't listen to me. They fed him the medicine. 20 minutes into that ceremony, he starts screaming and literally looking like he's from 28 days later. He's frothing in the corner. A little bit of my jiu-jitsu training came in handy. I got him out of the Maloka and got him outside because he was traumatizing everybody in the room. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I literally had to physically grab him. He was trying to bite me. And, I've watched a lot of zombie movies, so I'm not getting infected. I'm like, fuck this motherfucker. Yeah, I know how this ends. Like, so I get him outside. So I would have, on our retreats that I conduct, I screen everybody. I talk to them for at least an hour, get to know them. You get a vibe. I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I've been around. If somebody hasn't done any work and is just coming to have fun, it's not our retreat. We have fun, but I want people who are serious. Do you know what I mean? It's not just a party. I want people to get the most of it. And I try to generally, as people book, I will turn away people who are medicated. Yep. So if you're taking antipsychotics, if you're taking antidepressants, you have to have at least a month off that shit before you even step to the psychedelics. Yep. People say, oh, if you're bipolar, you can't have the medicine. I have had bipolar people on the retreats who have done the work, were not medicated, and were balanced enough that we could take care of them. So schizophrenia, a little bit different. Like with schizophrenics, if you're already, hearing voices and having delusional thoughts, and not probably the right thing for you to do. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I try not to turn anybody away, but if I feel you're not taking it serious, you don't want to do the work, or you're still actively using a lot of drugs and you're not willing to sort of detox yourself, I'll turn those people away. So that's basically it. It really comes down to, do people have the calling? Are they approaching it for the right reason? And if they're medicated, definitely not. You know what I mean? That's a no-no. Anybody listening, if you're thinking about taking ayahuasca and you're on any type of pharmaceuticals, please take at least a month off and get off correctly with your doctor. Don't stop cold turkey. I'm being a hypocrite because when I was taking antidepressants, I stopped cold turkey and I went fucking insane. I was like, okay, this is not good. So, talk to your doctor about it and try to get off the meds before you approach. Or don't try, definitely do. You know what I mean? If you can't, and if you've got something like schizophrenia where you have to stay medicated, then again, probably not the best thing. I would suggest breath work. I mean, the research that we're finding now that breath work can create that release of DMT naturally. So, I've seen people struggle with breath work. I've done a lot of transformational breath work. I had a chance to meet Wim Hof and do some breath work with him. So now I'm a firm supporter of his system and his method. And I really think that, you should work through those things and don't just don't just think that you're going to, like you said, just come and party and have fun with it, because it's not really that type of thing.
Yeah, no. And I think that's super important as well, because it's such a delicate experience. And as you said, it could literally traumatize the other people having the experience and rid them of the opportunity to do it. So like protecting the space is so important. This one time when I was in Amsterdam, it's much more low-key than yours, but they had like a cacao and a microdose ceremony in the morning and like yoga and stuff in the studio. And I went there to do it, and I was like a little bit not skeptical, but like I didn't know anyone, but it was all good. They said hello, but then there was this one dude there who just like, I don't know, it looked like he'd like just smoked meth. Like he was like twitching and slapping and like like talking to people, but like being hell abrupt. And I was like, no. And then I was like, no, just like breathe through it. And then we hadn't taken anything yet, but it was just like too intense that I was like, no, this is too much for me to fuck with, and I do not feel safe or comfortable. And it was like so noticeable. Yeah. So I like did the tiniest bit of the dose, but purposely didn't, and then just had the cacao and did some sober yoga. But I was like,
throw the dose over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Like a shot that you don't want to take, just boom over the shoulder.
Yeah, because I was like, if I can't control my mind state, and then I have this person fucking squeaking and gawking and going around, like it was just whack. Not that that's anything related to yours, but the space just felt shit.
No, it's exactly it. It's exactly related, because the most important part of the psychedelic experience is set and setting. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if you've got somebody that looks like they're smoking meth, you're probably going to have a bad trip.
Yeah.
I'm no doctor, but I would say it's probably not going to be the best, not going to be optimal. That's for sure. We're not optimizing your experience. Like, send in the meth heads. It's like, wait till everybody's feeing the medicine, and I'll go round up the local meth heads.
It's fucking right up. Let's have a party.
I see. It's re-traumatizing people so we keep lifetime customers.
Literally. Don't need us.
Yeah.
No. Oh my god. Yeah. So that was my experience.
That's cool though. No, that's the perfect example of, like you said, the first thing you said was there was somebody that didn't seem right. So what's the first thing? You start to feel a little uncomfortable. Now you're closing off. Now you're going to be closed off from your own experience as well, and that's bullshit. It's like, so that's why I have to protect the space, because if I've got these, extremely experienced people, then I have somebody who's, literally hasn't stopped snorting coke or drinking, and they want to come a week later. Yeah. It's just not the right vibe. It's not the right place. So I've sent those people, I usually try to tell them, hey, if you really want to do it, I can put you in touch with another center who may take you, but I still recommend, like I said, do the work first. Yeah. Don't approach this lightly. It's like, approach this, with respect, because like I told you, not pretty much everybody that comes, nobody's fully ready for what they get, but at least some people are a little more grounded. If you come completely aloof and you're just kind of like, not really sure of what you're doing and why you're doing it, you're doing yourself a disservice and the people in the circle. So like I said, it's an important setting. You have to feel comfortable. Yeah. If you don't feel comfortable, you're not going to open up. That's simple. So you got to feel comfortable. And that's what I said. I mean, to you, like people that are listening, maybe people don't connect with me. Maybe some people are like, oh, he's too loud. He laughs too much. He's not taking it seriously. I connect more with the people that are, chanting Om Shanti, wearing all white and banging on their drum. Yeah. It's like, and again, it's like, you have to go where you connect with the people. Yeah. I've tried to offer, like with my team, I've got masculine, myself, Kunti, feminine. Sometimes women don't want to talk to another woman. Sometimes they want to talk to a man. Sometimes men don't want to talk to another man. They want to talk to a woman. Whatever it may be, I try to offer a safe space where if you need a woman's piece of advice, we have somebody. If you want a man's piece of advice, I can handle it. If you want to be left alone to work through it, you can do that as well. You have to connect with the people, and if you don't, you're not going to feel safe and you're not going to open up. So the people listening, make sure you feel safe and you feel like it's the right place. And if anything tells you it's not, abort. Yeah. Look for something different.
Literally, because that tiny thing in your mind will become a big thing, especially mid-ceremony or like with any psychedelic, well, any drug in general. Your mind state is literally leading it. And I've done a podcast.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, about this. I'll release it in the future. But yeah, about a bad time where everyone was having a great time, but for me it ended up being like one of the worst days of my fucking life. But it was all mindset, and it was just that setting in your brain. So no,
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to hearing your stories because I saw that you're going to do a podcast on depression,
Yes.
and that for me makes me so happy because we've been following each other for a while, and I really commend people who take a stance and talk about mental illness because one of the greatest lessons for me in my life is all the trauma I've been through. It's like you got broken limbs, you've got a heart that's ready to explode. Like doctors come in and they operate.
Yeah.
But with mental illness, it's so fucking hard to know how to deal with people and what they're going through. And then there's the shame of don't talk about it, because there's mental illness in my family. And I remember oh, just suck it up. Don't talk about it. Don't deal with that. And it's like, you asked me a question about, I think you said, what would I tell to my younger self?
Yeah.
I would go back and tell my younger self, get your fucking head right. It's great to learn how to walk again. It's great to get your muscles back. It's great to get out on your runs and get your physical prowess back. But get your fucking mind right. Get your emotions right. And as a kid, especially a young man, I was always, men don't cry. Men don't talk about this. You just stuff it and you deal with it.
Yeah.
That's part of the hugest problem that we have right now that I see is people that aren't honest about what they're feeling and what they're going through. Yeah. So, they shove it down. And, I believe it was Freud who says the things that you shove down will manifest and come back in much uglier ways later. And that's what we see. And I really believe that all the crisis that we see in the world is rooted in the mental health crisis. The world's fucking insane right now. People are crazy. It's like we're all fighting one another. We all take stances. It's like we're going to, we have to stay home. We have to do this and this isn't right. And instead of people being kind and communicating, it's all about picking sides now. It's all like, I'm Black Lives Matter. Well, I'm all lives matter. And it's like, I'm Trump, I'm Biden, I'm white, I'm black. You're a girl, I'm a guy. It's like, holy fuck, guys. Like we're all humans and we're all on the same, we're all on the same planet. We better figure this shit out quick.
Yeah.
It's like, we gotta find a way. But, again, that's why I'm happy that people like you who have a lot of people that look up to you and follow you, that you're speaking out about mental illness. Like, it's okay. We gotta, it's like, you've competed, you know what it's like to diet and to train every day and get your body in top. It's like, I just wish more people would do the same with their mental.
Yeah.
It's what I call superficial fitness. You see these people like 4% body fat, beautiful tan, look fucking amazing, and complete emotional wrecks. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, and I'm not saying that you can't, but people obsess over certain things. I think that we need to use, the tools necessary that we have at our disposal, whether it be breath work, psychedelics or yoga or whatever it may be. Use those tools to try to get our minds right. So that's what I would go back and tell my younger self. Like, yes, it's important to learn how to walk again. Yes, it's important to get your physical health, but if you don't get your mental health and emotional, it's going to plague you. I wasted 10 years of my life addicted to drugs and fucked up. And hey, no regrets, right? I learned a lot of lessons. Yeah. It's given me now when somebody says, oh, well, you don't know what it's like to be addicted to heroin and homeless. It's like, motherfucker, I do. I do. I do.
No, yeah. I agree completely. But yeah, as you said, how it's kind of just like society and that, like, push your emotions down, you're a man, blah, blah. Like, that's how I kind of grew up. Like, if you'd cry, they'd be like, oh, you're a fucking baby, look at you type thing. And then so you just learn that that's the way to deal with everything your whole entire life until, yeah, I don't know, similarly, I wasted like 4 or 5 years just being in like a depressive lull until I just got rocked so hard where I was like, what the fuck am I? I may as well be dead, like, type thing. Yeah. But, yeah, so super important to talk about it and bring that to the forefront, I think. But
oh, totally.
Yeah. Well, you semi just answered my final question anyway, which was advice that you would give to your younger self, and that's about anything, not necessarily meaning you'd take it because it may have changed your path, but life, relationships, anything.
Yeah.
But you kind of answered it. But if you have another one.
Well, yeah, no, that would be, for me, I think the biggest thing is, and also too, like you've already touched on, that's why I loved your podcast, like how to start things and not give a fuck about what other people think. And I support that. I approve that message so hard. It's like, there's not enough like or heart buttons or whatever I can get going. It's like, it's one of those things. It's like, that's the other piece of advice is, my God, like how shitty is it to spend your life caring about what other people think? And you touched on those people that judge you. Like, everything that I've started, I've always had so many fucking haters come out of the woodwork. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm really into Carl Jung's work and also Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, because to me, the hero's journey, and for your listeners that aren't familiar with it, Joseph Campbell wrote about mythology and, you know, how every great hero story always followed sort of a template. Yeah. You know, there's a person who gets a call to adventure. You can either answer that call to adventure or you can stay in your comfort zone. Yeah. And throughout your life, you're going to get several calls to adventure. You don't need to accept them all, but the ones that call to you, answer them and go for it and be ready, because the haters, which as Campbell use the analogy, dragons. The dragons are going to come out, but the dragons are actually your friends. All those haters are your friends because they're challenging you. How bad do you want this? Yeah. You know, are you going to be a little bitch and you're going to cower and run at the first person that says, oh, well, you're just making money on ayahuasca retreats. You don't care about helping people. You only care about the money. And it's like, that's why I tell people my personal story. No. There's lots of other things I could be doing. Yeah. I'm doing this because I fucking love it. Yeah. And I see the benefit. So don't come and hate on me. And it's all those people. Like, I remember when we first did our first round of social media marketing, and the hate, it was like a landslide of you're exploiting these poor indigenous people. And I was like, actually, no, I'm helping. I'm actually helping their community. And then I had one person said, you're exploiting our culture. And I look at them, I look at their media platform. They're from fucking New York. I'm like, what culture am I? They're like, what are you talking about? It's like, you're exploiting our culture. I'm like, pretty sure I'm not exploiting your culture. Like, but anyway, yeah. So that's the other advice. One to the younger self is definitely focus on things that are getting to you mentally and emotionally, because they will chew you up and eat you alive if you don't deal with them. And the other one, don't give a fuck about what other people think. There are so many haters. No matter what you do, people are going to tell you it's wrong, and they're going to judge, and they don't know you. And it's like, you know, I listen to a lot of Rogan. I know you do too. And it's like, it's just those things, you know, after a while you stop reading the comments. Yeah. You know, I embrace my attention goes to people who are excited to have a great experience and work on themselves and try to help their communities and try to do good things. The people that are hating, I'll smile and wave. I'll try not to hate them back, although that's really fucking hard sometimes. I'll try not to hate them back and run into them in person and want to punch them in the face and, you know, all that stuff. But, you know, I just continue to focus on the good. I'd rather put my energy on the people that support me, because since I've started this journey, it's been absolutely amazing. A shout out to the people I know a bunch of my friends will listen to, but all the people that have helped support Earth Medicine Experience. You know, huge thank you to those people, because there's been a lot of people that have rallied around, especially, you know, during this time of quarantine, not being able to work. And just the people that have had the experience, like, anything we can do to help keep this alive, we want to do it, because we want to have a place to come back to. And we trust the work you're doing. And for me, that is so much more rewarding than having a Bentley in the garage. You know, Bentleys are nice, but I don't really need one. I'd rather eat some mushrooms and go hike up the side of the mountain. You know what I mean? It's like everybody has different things that they want. So, you know, out of life, like I said, I'm on a mission to have my own deep experiences and share and help people have theirs, you know, and hopefully create a nice little community of people that, you know, there's not bullshit. We don't sit and talk about the weather. Yeah. We sit and talk about our PTSD. We talk about, hey, you know what? Last year I wanted to fucking blow my brains out, or last year I almost died of a drug overdose. I'm like, cool, let's sit down and talk about that. You know, it's like people, it's like when it's like when I'm in Thailand, oh, nice weather we're having. Yeah, it's fucking nice every day, dude. Let's talk about something. Oh, the sun's shining. It's like,
this toffee's going to get old real quick. It's fucking sunny 365 days.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about shit that matters. And, you know, to sum it all up, let's try to be kinder to one another and have experiences, not hate. Let's try to understand where people are coming from. I did another podcast, and I always like to drop quotes, but I believe it's an Australian writer, Bo Taplin or Bo, trying to remember what his name is. But anyway, the quote is, we're all so desperate to be understood, we forget to be understanding. And that really resonated with me, because, you know, you see it on social media, and since all this stuff, everybody's so desperate to like hammer their point on why they have an opinion about something. Yeah. And it's almost like, well, if you don't agree with my opinion, then unfriend me. And I'm like, wow, that's like fucking kindergarten shit. Not only that, but now you're creating a community of only people who agree with you. Yeah. That's like going to a jiu-jitsu gym where everybody lets you win. You're not going to get better. It's like, you want people to challenge you. You want people to push your limits. You don't want people to, oh, you know what? I just agree with everything you say and you're the man. It's like, nah, not so rewarding. I want to be challenged and, because then you can strengthen your own opinions and maybe even change them. So who knows? I mean, so yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I'm on my second cup of coffee, so I'm getting all fired up now.
Yeah, getting worked up. No, it's because you're passionate. You're passionate. No, you said a couple. Every fucking thing you said's amazing, but the fact that you get satisfaction and you're touching real lives and real conversations, and like, I commend you for doing that. It's fucking dope going out there and I guess like following your truth. And yeah, people are like, oh, you just get to go Peru, but there are a lot of other fucking ways to make money, which is probably a little bit easier than going to live in the jungles for like months on end type thing.
Oh, yeah.
That you could do comfortably back in your hometown. Like, money is money, but what you're doing is passion. And obviously, like, it's changed your life and you want to facilitate that for other people. So, like, that's fucking dope. That is amazing.
Well, people always make fun of me because it's like a lot of the people that I work with, they always joke, Kunti serves the toad medicine. It's like, I get just as excited as the person getting ready to have it because I just love to see how people react to it. So I sit there with this huge smile on my face because I'm like, to me, it's like to share that experience is so amazing. Yeah. To see the look of people's faces when they come out of a ceremony, like you just rocked their world, how it's never been rocked before and will never be rocked again like that. So it's like, it's like, this is what life is about. Yeah. To me, it's like having those, and it's scary, but lots of things are scary. Jumping out of a plane is scary, but when you hit the ground, that endorphin rush, so there's lots of shit that's scary. But, and I think if anything in this, current climate, I was worried like, hey, you know what, like quarantine hit, now we're not allowed to have, international flights. There's no tourism. Maybe this isn't, maybe it's a sign from the universe that, this wasn't meant to be and I'm going to shut it down. But then I start reaching out to people and everybody's waiting because they just want to get out and travel again now. They want to live their life because, hey, when's the next lockdown coming? When's the next, if we listen to some of, the specialists, this one virus, there's more coming. There's going to be a whole lot more coming at us. So let's get out and live our lives now. Let's not stay locked up with our masks on and, let's be respectful and try to help people and not, put anybody in danger, but let's also not sit at home waiting for the next thing to happen because you can sit at home all day long and be like, yeah, you know what? I might go to the store, but I might get hit by a car or I might be walking up the hill and have a heart attack or a plane might fly out of we can go on and on and on. But hey, you know what? The worst thing, you might sit home and not live your life and end up on your deathbed with a whole lot of regrets. Yeah. And I say from my experience and the people that I've spent time with, that's going to be the greatest tragedy is not living your life, not getting out and doing things. Yeah. Don't be crazy and don't do like reckless shit, but live your life, adventure seek, call out to those adventures and get out and grab life by the horns because you know what, by the look of the way things are going, we don't know how much longer this shit show is going to keep on riding. The 3-ring circus shit show might get canceled. We don't know. It's like, so we got to live it up now.
Yeah. No, literally. Live, people, because you are going to die. They've given you the ending already. You're going to die. The end. Use that as motivation.
Yeah, exactly.
No, well, thank you so much. Number one, for your time, and number two, for your ridiculous stories and all your insight. It was super, super informative, but then also like, dude, I paid attention to every single second. Like this, no, it actually will be the longest podcast we've ever done. But
good. Number one in Peru.
Yeah, yeah. Let it be known. Hey, if it says
I'm all about that competitive edge. It's like I better be the longest one, and if you get a longer one, I'll have to come back on and defend my title.
No, definitely, and I think people would love to hear you back on anyway. Like, I've had so many people waiting for something of this, or they like kind of have heard a little bit about it, and then I've spoken about it, and I'm like, I can't tell you because I haven't done it because I'm not ready. Please, like, and I was like, I'll get
you will though.
Yeah, no, I definitely.
You'll do it. That's for sure.
I'll do it, and as you said, I don't think you're ever ready, and yeah, it'll rock me, but it'll be necessary. I'll do all the work.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you say about your business, right? I mean, were you really ready? to set up your business? Probably not, but you did, and it was the time to do it. It's like, we're never going to fully be ready. And that's the thing, like people waiting and waiting for the perfect moment. I think with psychedelics, there will never be a perfect moment, but it'll be the right moment for you. And that'll be when you have the calling and you've done a little bit of work on yourself and you feel ready. Like I said, I joke and say nobody's ever ready, but I've had lots of people that come that were scared to death. And then after the experience, like, I'm so glad. I mean, I had one guy from Bulgaria who came and he had planned to stay for 2 weeks. And after the first day, he was like, I want to go home. And he was like, but then he stayed. And now him and I just had a talk last week. And he's like, I'm so glad. I would have regretted that for the rest of my life. He's like, it was the best experience. So again, like, if anybody's out there listening, it's only natural to be scared because it's the unknown. You know what I mean? And it's like, so yes, it's scary, but it is so amazing. And it can be so helpful to even help you find a new path in life. It maybe, like, you don't need to quit your job and start a whole new life, but maybe it opens you emotionally to have a more intimate relationship. Maybe it opens you to be a little bit more lenient and find ways to adventure seek. I mean, it doesn't need to be these huge things. It can be very subtle changes, but can enrich your life in a magnitude that you might not expect. So, it's only natural to be scared. Anybody that's listening to this, reach out to me, talk, there's lots of places you can go. There's more than just ayahuasca. There's tons of medicines. Some people relate more to the bufo, some with the ayahuasca, some with the Wachuma, the Kambo, DMT. There's lots of options. So reach out and talk to either myself or somebody who has a lot of experience, and they can guide you and sort of help you, put the pieces together. But no Dr. Google. Fuck that guy.
No. Oh, well, thank you so much. I will link your everything to the podcast in the show notes on my Instagram, on Facebook, and I'll share this podcast like 1,000 fucking times because it's so interesting. But
awesome, Anita.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Ciao.
Bye.